You're listening to This Week in Palestine, a space where truth is unflinching, resistance is honored, and solidarity pulses through every story we share. From the heart of occupation, voices rise, not in isolation, but in chorus with global movements for justice, dignity, and liberation. This isn't just a broadcast, it's a lifeline, a thread between Gaza and the world, between shattered homes and unshaken hope, between the rubble and the resolve. Each week, we bring you fearless reporting, incisive analysis, and reflections that center Palestinian life in all its depth, defiance, and humanity. We trace the architecture of empire, from the policies that suffocate to the narratives that distort, and follow its echoes across borders, from Ferguson to Jenin, refugee camps to classrooms, and Gaza to the global conscience. Before we begin, a necessary reminder. The views expressed during this hour belong to our hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of WCBC, Boston College, or its Board of Trustees. This is not a space for polite avoidance or sanitized sound bites. It is a space for truth, bold, urgent, and unapologetic. Good morning, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from, thank you for joining us. I'm your host and narrator, Abby Masri, and it is a deep and humbling honor to welcome you back to This Week in Palestine. Today is Sunday, October 19th, 2025. Once again, our gaze turns to Gaza and the West Bank, lands under siege, where homes are reduced to dust, lives are uprooted, and voices struggle to rise above the din of global indifference. As headlines fade and attention shifts, the truth remains. Palestinians continue to resist, even as the threat of re-invasion looms. Israel has already begun sabotaging the ceasefire, so what's next? Will the world continue to watch in silence, or will it finally reckon with the cost of complicity? And still, one question refuses to fade. How long must a people suffer before the world chooses conscience over convenience, action over apathy? Stay with us as we strip away the silence, uplift resilience, and carry forward the flame of justice. This journey is not mine alone. It's ours. It's shared. It's urgent, and it's sacred. The brutal assault on Gaza has left behind a staggering toll. 274 journalists and media workers killed, including 269 Palestinians and 5 international reporters. These were not accidental casualties. These were deliberate erasures, voices silenced one by one in an effort to suppress the truth and shield the world from witnessing the full scale of Israel's war crimes and unfolding genocide. Journalists in Gaza have faced unimaginable conditions, reporting under bombardment, documenting atrocities with no electricity, no protective gear, and no guarantee of survival. And yet, they persisted. They filmed the rubble, recorded the cries, and broadcast the names of the dead. They stood in front of collapsing buildings and behind cameras that became their last witness. They were not just chroniclers of history, they were defenders of truth. Israel has tried relentlessly to hide its crimes, jamming signals, bombing media towers, targeting press tents, and assassinating reporters in their homes. But the journalists were braver than the occupiers. They chose to speak when silence was safer. They chose to document when disappearance was likely. They chose to tell the world even as the world looked away. These journalists did not die in vain. Their footage, their words, their final broadcasts live on. They are the reason we know what happened in Gaza when official narratives failed. They are the reason the world cannot claim ignorance. And they are the reason justice will one day knock on the doors of those who tried to bury the truth. To silence a journalist is to fear the truth. And Israel's campaign against Gaza's press corps reveals just how terrified it is of that truth being known. Let us honor these fallen journalists, not with pity, but with purpose. Let us carry forward their mission. Let us amplify their stories. And let us ensure that the truth they died to tell is never forgotten, never distorted, and never denied. Today, we honor the fallen truth-tellers of Gaza, the journalists and media workers who gave their lives so the world might see, hear, and remember. Their cameras were shields. Their pens were resistance. Their voices were lifelines in a war that sought to silence everything Palestinian. We cannot name them all today, not because they are forgotten, but because time and access to full records limit us. Still, I hold on to a hope that someone, somewhere, is writing their names into history. Not a few, not a list, but a book. A living archive of courage documenting every story, every sacrifice, every final broadcast. Today, we honor a few of the most recognized and beloved among them, those whose names have echoed across borders, whose deaths sparked outrage, and whose legacies continue to inspire. Let's start with the martyr, Anas al-Sharif, 1996 to 2025. Occupation, journalist, correspondent, videographer. Affiliation, Al Jazeera Arabic. Born December 3, 1996, Jabalia Refugee Camp, Gaza Strip. Died August 10, 2025, Gaza City, outside Al-Shifa Hospital. Cause of death, targeted Israeli airstrike. Family, married to Bayan, father of 2 children, Salah and Sham. Anas al-Sharif was born in the Jabalia refugee camp to a family originally displaced from Al-Majdal, now Ashkelon, in 1948. From a young age, he dreamed of becoming a journalist. During the 2008 Gaza war, he was interviewed as a child by Al Jazeera, declaring his desire to one day report the truth from his homeland. He graduated from Al-Aqsa University with a degree in mass communication, specializing in radio and television. Before joining Al Jazeera, he worked as a freelance photographer for outlets including Al-Shamal Media Network. He was wounded by shrapnel while covering the 2018-2019 Gaza border protests. Al-Sharif became known for his frontline coverage from northern Gaza, often broadcasting live amid bombings, displacement, and devastation. His reporting was raw, urgent, and deeply human. In July 2025, he broke down on air while covering Gaza's hunger crisis, a moment that went viral and drew both empathy and condemnation. Despite threats from the Israeli military, which accused him of being affiliated with Hamas, claims denied by Al Jazeera and human rights groups, al-Sharif refused to stop reporting. According to his brother, Israel offered him safe passage out of Gaza if he ceased his work. He declined. On August 10, 2025, al-Sharif was killed in a targeted Israeli airstrike on a tent housing journalists outside Al-Shifa Hospital. The attack also killed fellow Al Jazeera correspondents Mohammed Qreiqeh, Ibrahim Zahir, and Mohammed Nofal, along with freelancers Momin Aliwa and Mohammed Al-Khalidi. Just hours before his death, al-Sharif posted a video on X, formerly Twitter, describing the non-stop bombing of Gaza City. In a final message prepared for posthumous release, he wrote, "I lived the pain in all its details. I never hesitated to convey the truth as it is, without distortion or misrepresentation. Not even the mangled bodies of our children and women moved their hearts or stopped the massacre." He expressed sorrow for leaving behind his wife and children and asked the world not to forget Gaza or him. Legacy and recognition. Pulitzer Prize for Breaking News Photography 2024, awarded to al-Sharif and his Reuters team for their coverage of the Gaza war. Global tributes poured in from journalists, activists, and human rights organizations. Al Jazeera condemned the attack as a blatant and premeditated assault on press freedom. Why he matters? Anas al-Sharif was more than a journalist. He was a witness, a father, a son of Gaza, and a voice for the voiceless. His death is not just a tragedy, it is a call to action. A reminder that truth is dangerous to those who fear accountability, and that journalism, in places like Gaza, is not a job, it is resistance. Next, we have in our list Martyr Ayat Khadora, 1996 to 2023. Occupation, freelance journalist, podcaster, digital activist. Born Beit Lahiya, Gaza Strip. Died November 20, 2023. Beit Lahiya, Gaza Strip. Cause of death, Israeli airstrike on her family home. Education, bachelor's degree in digital media, Al-Quds Open University online presence. Over 200,000 followers on Instagram. A voice from the north. Ayat Khadora was born and raised in Beit Lahiya, a town in northern Gaza known for its resilience and suffering. From a young age, she was drawn to storytelling, not just as a craft, but as a form of resistance. She studied digital media at Al-Quds Open University, determined to use her voice to document life under siege. Ayat was not affiliated with any major news outlet. She was part of a growing wave of independent Palestinian journalists who used social media to bypass censorship and reach global audiences directly. Her Instagram account became a lifeline for thousands, offering raw, unfiltered glimpses into daily life in Gaza, the hunger, the mourning, the hope. Her final message on November 6, 2023, Aya posted a video titled "My Last Message to the World." In it, she said, "We had big dreams, but our dream now is to be killed in one piece so they know who we are." She spoke of her terror at the use of white phosphorus and thermobaric bombs in her neighborhood. Her voice trembled, but her message was clear. Gaza was being erased, and the world needed to see it. The attack. On November 20, 2023, Aya was killed in an Israeli airstrike that targeted her home. The blast also claimed the lives of her grandmother and 3 siblings. According to family members, her body was blown to pieces, making burial impossible. Her sister Yasmin later said, "Ayat aspired to become a big journalist, to study further, to get filming equipment. So many things." Her death was not just a personal tragedy. It was a blow to the community of citizen journalists who risk everything to speak truth from Gaza. Global response. UNESCO Director General Audrey Azoulay publicly condemned Ayat's killing, calling for a full investigation and reaffirming the protection of journalists under international law. The Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, listed her among the growing number of media workers deliberately targeted in Gaza. Her Instagram account remains active, now managed by family members who continue to share updates and memorialize her work. Legacy. Ayat Khadora was more than a journalist. She was a daughter, a sister, a voice for the voiceless. Her courage lives on in every post, every video, every word she left behind. She represents a generation of Palestinian women who refuse to be silenced, who turn grief into testimony and fear into fire. Her story is not over. It is being written every time someone shares her message, speaks her name, or demands justice for the journalists of Gaza. Next in our list, martyr Saleh Aljafarawi, 1997 to 2025, occupation, freelance journalist, photographer, content creator. Born November 22, 1997, Gaza City, Palestine. Died October 12, 2025, Sabra neighborhood, Gaza City. Cause of death, shot multiple times by armed militia linked to Israeli collaborators while covering clashes. Education, bachelor's degree in media and journalism, Islamic University of Gaza. Social media reach, over 10 million followers across platforms before account deletion. A voice from the rebel. Saleh Aljafarawi began his journalism career during the Great March of Return in 2018, documenting protests, bombings, and daily life under siege. He was known for his raw, emotional reporting, often rushing to bombing sites to film massacres and join rescue efforts. His footage was widely shared across Arabic social media, earning him a massive following and making him one of Gaza's most recognizable young journalists. He was also a charismatic figure, singing for children, playing with animals, and sharing moments of joy amid devastation. His work blurred the line between journalism and activism, and he often used his platform to celebrate Palestinian resistance, including controversial praise for the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel. Final days and assassination. On October 12, 2025, just days after a ceasefire was declared between Israel and Hamas, Saleh was killed while covering clashes in the Sabra neighborhood of Gaza City. The fighting involved Hamas security forces and the Dugmush clan militia, reportedly backed by Israel to destabilize Gaza post-withdrawal. Saleh was wearing a clearly marked press vest and helmet when he was cornered and shot multiple times. His body was later seen on the back of a truck in footage verified by Al Jazeera's Sanad agency. His father, Mohammad Al-Jafarawi, confirmed that Saleh had been documenting destruction left behind by Israeli forces and was targeted by armed men cooperating with the occupation. Threats and censorship. Saleh had received numerous threats from Israeli officials and militias due to his reporting. His Instagram account was suspended multiple times and eventually deleted by Meta after his death, erasing a critical archive of Gaza's suffering. Human rights lawyers have since filed complaints with the International Criminal Court, ICC, and UN committees, demanding accountability for his kidnapping, torture, and murder. Legacy and farewell. In one of his final videos, Saleh removed his press vest and placed it on a child, saying, "Even if you target us and we die, children will take our place. This land is ours." He left behind a farewell letter. "I have tasted loss many times, yet I never hesitated to convey the truth as it is, a truth that will remain a testimony against those who were silent and an honor for those who stood firm." Saleh's death came just as his brother Naji Al-Jafarawi was released from Israeli detention. The family, hoping for reunion, instead mourned a martyr. Why Saleh matters. Saleh Aljafarawi was not just a journalist. He was a witness, a brother, a son, and a symbol of Gaza's unyielding spirit. His assassination sent a chilling message that even in ceasefire, truth-tellers are hunted. But his legacy lives on. In every video, every post, every child who wears a press vest in his honor. He documented genocide. He challenged propaganda. He stood where others fled. And for that, he paid the ultimate price. Next is a detailed tribute to martyr Mohammad Al-Salhi, one of the first journalists killed in Gaza during the 2023 escalation, whose life and death reflect the dangers faced by Palestinian media workers and the urgency of their mission. Mohammad Al-Salhi, 1994 to 2023. Occupation, freelance photojournalist. Affiliation, Fourth Authority News Agency. Born, Al-Barij Refugee Camp, Gaza Strip. Died, October 7, 2023, east of Al-Barij, Gaza Strip. Cause of death, shot by Israeli forces while reporting near the border fence. Age at death, 29. Protective gear, wearing press vest and helmet at time of death. A life behind the lens. Mohammad Al-Salhi was born and raised in Al-Barij refugee camp, one of Gaza's most densely populated and impoverished areas. He pursued journalism not for fame, but to document the lives of Palestinians under siege. His work focused on the human consequences of military occupation, often capturing moments of grief, resilience, and everyday survival. As a freelance photojournalist, Al-Salhi contributed to the Fourth Authority News Agency, covering stories across central Gaza. Colleagues described him as deeply committed to truth-telling, often risking his life to report from frontline areas. The attack. On October 7, 2023, the first day of Israel's large-scale military campaign, Al-Salhi was reporting near the border fence east of Al-Barij when he was shot and killed. According to press freedom organizations, he was clearly marked as press, wearing protective gear including a vest and helmet. His death occurred during the initial wave of hostilities, as Hamas launched a surprise attack and Israel responded with airstrikes. The Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, and the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate condemned the killing as a violation of international law and press protections. Global response. UNESCO Director General Audrey Azoulay issued a public statement denouncing the killing of Al-Salhi and fellow journalist Mohammed Qreiqeh, emphasizing the obligation of all parties to protect journalists in conflict zones. CPJ called for a transparent investigation and urged Israel to identify and hold accountable those responsible for the shooting. Legacy. Mohammad Al-Salhi's name is now recorded in international observatories tracking attacks on the press. His death marked the beginning of what would become the deadliest conflict for journalists in modern history, with over 270 media workers killed in Gaza since October 2023. He is remembered not just for his images, but for his unwavering commitment to documenting truth amid danger. His story is a reminder that journalism in Gaza is not just a profession, it is a form of resistance. Now, here is a detailed tribute to martyr Ibrahim Mohammad Lafi, one of the first journalists killed during the 2023 Gaza war, whose death marked the beginning of a devastating campaign against Palestinian media workers. Ibrahim Mohammad Lafi, 1995 to 2023. Occupation: photojournalist. Affiliation: Ain Media. Born: Gaza Strip. Died: October 7, 2023. Erez Crossing, northern Gaza. Cause of death: shot by Israeli forces while reporting. Age at death: 28. Protective gear: wearing press vest and helmet at time of death. A photographer of the front lines. Ibrahim Lafi was a dedicated photojournalist working with Ain Media, a Gaza-based independent media outlet known for its coverage of protests, military incursions, and daily life under siege. Lafi had built a reputation for capturing powerful, unfiltered images of Palestinian resilience and suffering, often from the most dangerous locations. He was deeply committed to documenting the truth, even when it meant risking his life. Colleagues described him as quiet, focused, and fearless. His work was frequently shared by international outlets and human rights organizations. The attack, on October 7, 2023, the day Israel launched its full-scale military campaign in response to Hamas's surprise attack, Lafi was reporting near the Erez Crossing, a militarized checkpoint between Gaza and Israel. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, and Palestinian press freedom groups, he was shot and killed by Israeli forces while wearing clearly marked press gear. He was one of 3 journalists killed that day, alongside Mohammed Qreiqeh and Mohammad Al-Salhi, marking the beginning of what would become the deadliest conflict for journalists in modern history. Global response. The Journalist Support Committee and MADA, Palestinian Center for Development and Media Freedoms, confirmed Lafi's death and called for international accountability. The CPJ issued a statement urging all parties to respect the rights and safety of journalists, emphasizing that journalists are civilians and should not be targeted. Lafi's name was added to UNESCO's list of journalists killed in conflict zones, and his death was condemned by press freedom advocates worldwide. Legacy. Ibrahim Mohammad Lafi's death was not just a loss for Gaza, it was a loss for global journalism. He represents the frontline reporters who risk everything to document war, injustice, and survival. His final assignment at the Erez Crossing was a testament to his courage, standing at the edge of danger to bring the world closer to the truth. His images remain in circulation, shared by activists and journalists who refuse to let his story be buried. He is remembered as a martyr of truth, a witness to history, and a symbol of the price paid by those who dare to document reality under occupation. And now, here is a detailed tribute to martyr Saeed Al-Taweel, a respected Palestinian journalist whose life and death reflect the courage and vulnerability of media workers in Gaza. Saeed Al-Taweel, 1989 to 2023. Occupation, journalist, editor-in-chief. Affiliation, Al-Khamsa News website. Born, Gaza City, Palestine. Died, October 10, 2023. Al-Rimal neighborhood, Gaza City. Cause of death, Israeli airstrike targeting media offices. Education, bachelor's degree in media and journalism, Islamic University of Gaza. A career of integrity. Saeed Al-Taweel was known for his deep commitment to journalism and his role as editor-in-chief of Al-Khamsa News, a local outlet focused on political, social, and humanitarian issues in Gaza. He began his career reporting for regional media and steadily built a reputation for professionalism, clarity, and moral courage. He covered major events including the Great March of Return, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. His reporting was distinguished by its focus on civilian life, especially the impact of war on families, children, and displaced communities. The attack. On October 10, 2023, Saeed was killed in an Israeli airstrike that targeted a building in the Al-Rimal neighborhood of Gaza City, a district known for housing media offices, NGOs, and residential buildings. He was on the roof of a nearby structure, filming the aftermath of a previous strike when another missile hit the area. The same attack also killed fellow journalists Mohammed Sob and Hisham Al-Nawaha, both of whom were working for local media outlets. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, all three were clearly marked as press and were not engaged in any combat activity. Global response. CPJ, UNESCO, and multiple international media organizations condemned the strike as a violation of international humanitarian law. The Palestinian Journalists Syndicate called the attack a deliberate targeting of the press. Saeed's death was widely mourned across Gaza, with tributes from colleagues, students, and civil society leaders. Legacy. Saeed Al-Taweel is remembered as a voice of reason and resilience. His work helped document the lived reality of Palestinians under siege, and his death became a symbol of the risks journalists face simply for doing their job. He leaves behind a legacy of truth-telling, mentorship, and unwavering dedication to the people of Gaza. His name is now etched among those who paid the ultimate price to ensure the world could not look away. Now here is a detailed tribute to martyr Salam Mema, a pioneering Palestinian journalist whose life and death reflect both the promise and peril of truth-telling in Gaza. Salam Mema, 1991 to 2023. Occupation, freelance journalist. Media organizer role, head of the Women Journalists Committee at the Palestinian Media Assembly. Born, Jabalia Refugee Camp, Gaza Strip. Died, October 13, 2023. Jabalia, Gaza Strip. Cause of death, Israeli airstrike on her family home. Age at death, 32. Family, husband Muhammad Al-Masri, children Hadi, Ali, and Sham. A voice for women and justice, Salam Mema was more than a journalist. She was a community leader, a mother, and a champion for women in media. As head of the Women Journalists Committee within the Palestinian Media Assembly, she worked to amplify the voices of female reporters in Gaza, advocating for their safety, visibility, and professional development. Her reporting focused on human rights, civilian life, and the impact of war on women and children. She was known for her integrity, warmth, and tireless commitment to documenting the truth under siege. The attack on October 9, 2023, Salam's home in Jabalia refugee camp was struck by an Israeli airstrike. She and her family were buried under rubble for days. On October 13th, her body and that of her eldest son were recovered. Her youngest son, Ali, was rescued alive. The search for her daughter continued for days afterward. The airstrike that killed Salam also destroyed nearby mosques, marketplaces, and residential buildings. Witnesses described the bombing as indiscriminate, with no prior warning. Israeli officials claimed they were targeting Hamas infrastructure, but Salam's family and colleagues insist she was not affiliated with any militant group and that her home was a civilian residence. Global response. The Coalition for Women in Journalism, CFWIJ, condemned the killing, calling it a grave violation of international law and a devastating loss for press freedom. The Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, listed Salam among the first wave of journalists killed in the war, highlighting the dangers faced by media workers in Gaza. Her death sparked renewed calls for international protection of journalists, especially women reporting from conflict zones. Legacy. Salam Mema's life was a testament to the power of journalism as resistance. She stood for truth, for women, for Gaza. Her work lives on in the stories she told, the voices she uplifted, and the community she helped build. She is remembered not only as a journalist, but as a mother who died protecting her children, a leader who fought for equity, and a martyr of conscience. Next here is a detailed tribute to martyr Roshdi Sarraj, a visionary Palestinian journalist and filmmaker whose life embodied the power of storytelling under siege and whose death became a symbol of Gaza's silenced truth. Roshdi Sarraj, 1992 to 2023. Occupation, journalist, filmmaker, fixer, co-founder of Ain Media Born. Born Gaza City, Palestine. Died October 22, 2023. Tal al-Hawa neighborhood, Gaza City. Cause of death, Israeli airstrike while shielding his wife and daughter. Age at death, 31. Family, son of Yahya Sarraj, mayor of Gaza City, husband to Shrouk al-Aila, father to Danya. A life of vision and courage. Roshdi Sarraj began his journalism career in 2012, co-founding Ain Media with fellow journalist Yasser Murtaja, who was later killed by Israeli sniper fire in 2018. Ain Media became a vital platform for documenting Gaza's reality, producing films, news footage, and visual reports for international outlets. Sarraj worked as a fixer and translator for global organizations including Radio France, Amnesty International, United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRW, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, ABC. He also contributed photojournalism to Al Jazeera, Al Arabi, and other regional outlets. His 2021 documentary, Bank of Targets, was screened at the Al Ard Film Festival, highlighting the systematic targeting of civilian infrastructure in Gaza. Personal life and principles. Roshdi was known for his love of swimming, photographing birds, and spending time with animals and family. He was deeply committed to Gaza, refusing to leave even when offered safety abroad. After performing Umrah in Mecca, he canceled a planned trip to Qatar and returned to Gaza as the war escalated. He told friends, "The only way I will leave Gaza is to go to heaven." The attack. On October 22, 2023, Israeli forces bombed the Tal al-Hawa neighborhood in Gaza City. Roshdi was struck by shrapnel while trying to shield his wife and one-year-old daughter. His family and neighbors carried him to the hospital on foot, but he died shortly after arrival. He was buried in a mass grave alongside other victims of the bombing. His widow, Shrouk, now runs Ain Media and continues journalistic work, often wearing Roshdi's press jacket. Global response. Al Jazeera confirmed Roshdi as the 23rd journalist killed in the war at that time. ABC Australia, where he had contributed footage, was criticized for softening language in its coverage of his death, prompting a silent vigil by journalists and activists in Melbourne. Free Palestine Melbourne and the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance held a protest demanding accountability and protection for journalists in Gaza. Legacy. Roshdi Sarraj was more than a journalist. He was a builder of platforms, a mentor to young reporters, and a guardian of Gaza's memory. His work lives on in the footage he captured, the stories he shaped, and the courage he inspired. He died doing what he loved, protecting his family and documenting truth. His name now joins the long list of Palestinian journalists who gave everything so the world might see. Here is a detailed tribute to martyr Samer Abudaqa, a veteran Palestinian journalist whose life and death reflect the extraordinary risks faced by media workers in Gaza and the enduring power of visual storytelling in the face of war. Samer Abudaqa, 1978 to 2023, occupation, cameraman, video journalist, technician affiliation, Al Jazeera Arabic, born Khan Yunis, Gaza Strip, died December 15, 2023. Khan Yunis, Gaza Strip, cause of death, Israeli drone strike while reporting at Haifa school. Citizenship, Palestinian and Belgian. Education, journalism and media, Al-Azhar University. Family, father of 4. Family resides in Belgium. Years active, 2004 to 2023. A career of commitment. Samer Abudaqa began his journalism career at Al-Sha'ab newspaper before joining Al Jazeera in 2004. He was one of the founding members of Al Jazeera's Gaza Bureau and worked for nearly 2 decades as a cameraman, technician, and field producer. He was known for his calm demeanor, technical skill, and deep dedication to documenting Gaza's reality. Abudaqa covered countless wars, ceasefires, and humanitarian crises. His footage helped shape global understanding of life under siege, and he was widely respected by colleagues for his professionalism and compassion. The attack. On December 15, 2023, Samer was reporting alongside Al Jazeera Gaza Bureau Chief Wael Al-Dahdouh at Haifa School in Khan Yunis, which had been bombed earlier that day. The school was being used as a shelter by displaced families under the UN. While filming the aftermath, an Israeli drone strike targeted their crew. Dahdouh was wounded in the arm and stomach, but managed to walk to Nasser Hospital. Samer, however, was left behind, bleeding from shrapnel wounds. For over 5 hours, rescue efforts were delayed due to heavy bombardment. Al Jazeera attempted to coordinate with humanitarian groups and the Israeli military to retrieve him. One ambulance that tried to reach Samer was fired upon, and 3 rescue workers were killed. Samer ultimately bled to death, alone. Funeral and mourning. Samer was buried on December 16, 2023, in Khan Yunis. His body was wrapped in his press vest and helmet, and his grave was dug by fellow journalists. Hundreds of mourners, including colleagues and civil society leaders, attended the funeral. Wael Al-Dahdouh, still injured, led the procession. Global response. Al Jazeera referred to Samer's death as an assassination and filed a case with the International Criminal Court, ICC, citing repeated attacks on its crews. Reporters Without Borders, RSF, and the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, condemned the killing and called for international accountability. Samer was the 13th Al Jazeera journalist killed on duty since the network's founding in 1996. The Foreign Press Association, FPA, confirmed he was the first of its members killed in the Israel-Gaza war. Legacy. Samer Abudaqa was more than a cameraman. He was a guardian of memory, a father, a colleague, and a witness to history. His final footage, capturing the ruins of a school-turned-shelter, was a testament to his lifelong mission, to show the world what Gaza endures. His death is a reminder that in Gaza, journalism is not just dangerous, it is deadly. And yet, journalists like Samer continue to report, knowing that without them, war crimes remain unwritten. We will continue to do our duty with professionalism and transparency. Wael Al-Dahdouh, eulogizing Samer Abudaqa. Here is a detailed tribute to martyr Mohammed Qreiqeh, a Palestinian journalist whose life and death reflect the profound personal and professional sacrifices made by Gaza's media workers. Mohammed Qreiqeh, 1992 to 2025. Occupation, journalist, correspondent, affiliation, Al Jazeera Arabic. Born, Shuja'iyya neighborhood, Gaza City. Died August 10, 2025, Al-Shifa Hospital, Gaza City. Cause of death, targeted Israeli drone strike on a media tent. Age at death, 33. Family, survived by his wife and young daughter, only child of Nama Qreiqeh. A life shaped by loss and purpose. Mohammed Qreiqeh was born and raised in Shuja'iyya, one of Gaza's most heavily bombed neighborhoods. His path to journalism was shaped by personal tragedy and a deep desire to document the suffering and resilience of his people. In March 2024, his mother, Nama Qreiqeh, was killed by an Israeli sniper during the siege of Al-Shifa Hospital. Her body was left to decompose on the hospital stairs, and Mohammed searched for her for 2 weeks before finding her remains. That trauma became a turning point in his life and reporting. He joined Al Jazeera Arabic in August 2024, shortly after the killing of his colleague Ismail Alghool, and quickly became known for his empathetic, human-centered journalism. His reports focused on displaced families, children, and the emotional toll of war. Final broadcast and death on August 10, 2025. Mohammed was killed in a targeted Israeli drone strike on a tent housing Al Jazeera journalists outside Al-Shifa Hospital, the same place where his mother had died. The attack also killed Anas al-Sharif, correspondent; Ibrahim Zahir, cameraman; Mohammed Nofal, cameraman; 2 freelancers working with Al Jazeera. Mohammed's last broadcast aired just minutes before the strike. In it, he spoke about the endless displacement of Gazans and ended with the words, "Nothing will happen except what Allah has written." He was wearing a press vest and helmet, and the tent was clearly marked as a media zone. Witnesses said the missile struck directly, killing the entire crew. Global response. Al Jazeera condemned the attack as a targeted assassination and filed a complaint with the International Criminal Court, ICC. The Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, listed Qreiqeh among the more than 270 journalists killed in Gaza since October 2023. The Foreign Press Association, FPA, and Reporters Without Borders, RSF, called for international accountability and protection for journalists. Legacy. Mohammed Qreiqeh was more than a journalist. He was a son who turned grief into testimony, a father who risked everything to document truth, and a witness to genocide. His death silenced one of Gaza's most powerful voices, but his legacy endures in every report, every image, and every story he told. He reminds us that in Gaza, journalism is not just a profession. It is resistance, memory, and a final act of love. Here is a detailed tribute to martyr Ismail Alghool, a young Palestinian journalist whose life and death reflect the extraordinary risks faced by media workers in Gaza and the systematic targeting of truth-tellers during wartime. Ismail Alghool, 1997 to 2024. Occupation, journalist. Correspondence affiliation, Al Jazeera Arabic. Born, January 14, 1997, Gaza Strip. Died, July 31, Al-Shati refugee camp, Gaza City. Cause of death, Israeli airstrike targeting his press-marked vehicle. Age at death, 27. Education, bachelor's degree in journalism, Islamic University of Gaza. Colleague killed alongside, Rami Al-Rifi, cameraman, a rising voice in Gaza. Ismail Alghool began his journalism career writing for local Palestinian newspapers before transitioning to television reporting. He joined Al Jazeera Arabic in 2023 and quickly became known for his empathetic, frontline coverage of Gaza's humanitarian crisis, displacement, and war crimes. He was particularly focused on documenting the suffering of civilians, especially children and the wounded, during Israel's military campaign. His reports were broadcast across the Arab world and widely shared on social media, making him a recognizable face of Gaza's resistance journalism. Detention and abuse. On March 18, 2024, during the Israeli siege of Al-Shifa Hospital, Ismail was arrested by Israeli forces along with other journalists and medical staff. He was beaten and blindfolded, stripped of his press gear, detained for 12 hours, forced to lie face down with hands tied while soldiers fired warning shots near his body. In interviews after his release, Ismail described the experience as psychological torture, saying, "They wanted to break us, to make us stop reporting, but we kept filming. We kept telling the world." The attack. On July 31, 2024, Ismail and his cameraman Rami al-Rafi were reporting from al-Shadi refugee camp near the home of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, who had just been assassinated in Tehran. Their vehicle was clearly marked as press, and both men were wearing media vests. They had just contacted their news desk and were told to leave the area due to nearby strikes. While driving toward Al-Ali Arab Hospital, their car was targeted by an Israeli drone strike, killing both instantly. Al Jazeera described the attack as a targeted assassination, part of a broader campaign against its journalists. Global response. Reporters Without Borders, RSF, and the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, condemned the killing and called for an independent investigation. The Times of Israel claimed Ismail was a member of Hamas's elite Nukhba force, a charge Al Jazeera rejected as baseless and defamatory. Al Jazeera Media Network pledged to pursue legal action through the International Criminal Court, ICC. Legacy. Ismail Alghool was more than a journalist. He was a witness to genocide, a survivor of torture, and a voice for the voiceless. His final reports captured the anguish of displaced families, the cries of wounded children, and the resilience of a people under siege. He died doing what he loved, telling the truth. And in Gaza, that truth is dangerous. The bodies of children and the screams of the injured never leave my sight. Ismail Alghool, final message. Here is a detailed tribute to Wael Al-Dahdouh, Gaza's most recognized journalist and Al Jazeera's bureau chief, whose life, work, and personal losses have come to symbolize the cost of truth-telling under siege. Wael Hamdan Ibrahim Al-Dahdouh, 1970 to present. Occupation, journalist, Gaza bureau chief for Al Jazeera Arabic. Born April 30, 1970, Zaytun neighborhood, Gaza City. Education, BA in Journalism and Media, Islamic University of Gaza, 1998. MA in Regional Studies, Al-Quds University, Abudaqa, 2007. Years imprisoned, 7 years in Israeli prisons, 1988-1995. Current residence, Doha, Qatar, as of 2025. A life of resistance and reporting. Wael Al-Dahdouh's path to journalism began in prison. Arrested during the First Intifada and sentenced to 15 years for stone throwing, he spent 7 years behind bars, where he completed his high school diploma and began studying journalism. Upon release, he pursued media studies and became a correspondent for Al-Quds newspaper, Voice of Palestine, and Al Arabiya, before joining Al Jazeera in 2004. He covered the Second Intifada, multiple wars on Gaza, and the daily realities of siege, displacement, and resistance. His reporting is marked by emotional clarity, moral urgency, and unflinching presence, often broadcasting live from bomb sites, hospitals, and refugee camps. Personal tragedies. Wael's life was shattered repeatedly during the 2023 to 2024 war. October 25, 2023, his wife, 15-year-old son, 7-year-old daughter, grandson, niece, and nephew were killed in an Israeli airstrike on the Nuseirat refugee camp. December 15, 2023, he was wounded in a drone strike while reporting at Haifa School in Khan Yunis. His colleague, Samar Abudaqa, bled to death beside him. January 7, 2024, his eldest son, Hamza Al-Dahdouh, also a journalist, was killed in an Israeli airstrike in Khan Yunis. January 8, 2024, two of his nephews were killed in another airstrike. Despite these losses, Wael returned to reporting within hours of each tragedy. Images of him cradling his grandson's body and broadcasting through tears became iconic symbols of Gaza's suffering and resilience. Global Recognition, Peace Through Media Award 2013, 2024 International John Aubuchon Press Freedom Award, National Press Club, honored at global conferences on press freedom, including in Doha and London. Wael has become a global icon of journalistic courage, speaking at international forums about the deliberate targeting of journalists in Gaza. He has called for legal accountability, international protection, and solidarity from global media unions, asking, "Where is your role in seeking justice for your colleagues in Gaza?" Philosophy and mission. Wael sees journalism not as a job, but as a mission. "I cannot live just for mine or my family's interests. There are those of my community, my people, the whole world." He has criticized Western media for its bias and silence, saying that the lack of solidarity from fellow journalists was sometimes more painful than the bombs. Legacy. Wael Al-Dahdouh is not just a journalist. He is a father who buried his children, a witness to genocide, and a voice that refuses to be silenced. His story is the story of Gaza, enduring, resisting, and insisting on truth. After hearing the stories of Gaza's fallen journalists, those who chose truth over safety, testimony over silence, I find myself humbled, almost small in the shadow of their courage. What does it mean to live with such clarity of purpose? To know the risks, to feel the crosshairs, and still walk toward the fire with a camera, a pen, a microphone? These were not accidental deaths. They were deliberate assassinations, executed by heartless operators hiding behind drone screens or flying American-made F-16s and F-35s with clinical detachment. These journalists were targeted not for what they did, but for what they represented: a refusal to let Gaza be erased, a refusal to let the world forget. And yet, they are not the only heroes whose legacies endure. Every Palestinian killed by the monsters who call themselves a moral army is part of this sacred lineage. The list stretches far beyond the press corps. It includes doctors who died treating the wounded in bombed-out hospitals, teachers who kept classrooms alive in refugee camps, aid workers who delivered bread under fire, fathers who shielded their children, mothers who whispered prayers in the rubble, children who never got to grow old. You are not forgotten. Your names rise with every morning sun. The land grieves you with every sunset, and the sky cries you with every drop of rain. For nearly a century, Palestinians have lived under the weight of occupation, apartheid, and exile. The violence did not begin in 2023 or 2008 or even 1948. It began with a colonial fantasy, a myth imported from the West, wrapped in scripture and settler logic, claiming that Israel was returning to a land it had never built. They say they were here 4,000 years ago. We say we never left. We are the soul and the soil of this land. We built Jerusalem, Jaffa, Akka, Gaza, Ramallah, Haifa. We carved every alley, planted every olive tree, every orange grove. We are the breath of this land, the sand, the sea, the sky, the air. We are not guests. We are not intruders. We are the native heartbeat of Palestine. And yes, it is called Palestine, not Israel. To speak this truth is not hatred. It is memory. It is resistance to erasure. It is the insistence that history cannot be rewritten by warplanes or bulldozers or propaganda. It is the voice of a people who have endured massacres, displacement, siege, and starvation, and still sing, still teach, still write, still resist. The journalists who died in Gaza were not just documenting war, they were documenting life. They were archiving the final moments of children, the last prayers of mothers, the shattered dreams of students. They were building a record that no missile can destroy. And in doing so, they joined a lineage of Palestinian martyrs whose names are etched into the conscience of the world. Not just the famous ones, all of them. The unnamed, the unfilmed, the unburied. Their memory is not a tombstone. It is a torch. So what do we do with this grief, with this rage, with this love? We remember, we speak, we build, we resist. We carry their names into every room, every protest, every classroom, every broadcast. We refuse to let the world look away. We refuse to let silence win. Because Palestine is not just a place, it is a people. It is a promise. It is a prayer that refuses to die. And as long as the sun rises, so will we. And that brings us to the close of today's episode of This Week in Palestine. As always, stay curious, stay courageous, and keep asking the questions that unsettle power and illuminate the path to justice. I'm your host and narrator, Abby Masri, and it's been a deep honor to share this space with you. A space where truth is spoken without dilution, resistance is held with reverence, and solidarity is never up for debate. If you have reflections, questions, or would like to support the work we do, or even step behind the mic as a future host, we'd love to hear from you. Reach us anytime at twippodcasts@gmail.com. A heartfelt thank you to you, our listeners, and to the brilliant team whose vision and dedication keep this platform alive. Bob Funk, Stanley Robinson, Stephen Lowe, Sophia Rose Woolman, Tahani Abu Mosa, Dr. Rana Awad, Professor Yara Rashid, Juliet Thalame Olivier, Reynard Alghool, and our editor, Mohammad Al-Ghoul. Your labor, spirit, and unwavering commitment are the heartbeat of this show. Until next time, keep walking toward truth. Keep walking toward Palestine. This Week in Palestine is a production of Truth and Justice Radio, proudly broadcasting from WZBC Student Radio at Boston College. Thank you for walking this path with us. We'll be back next week. Until then, take care and stay steadfast.
They came with fire, they came with lies, tore our homes from the earth and the skies, stole the fields where our children once ran, buried our names in the dust of the land. They took our plates and called them their own. Our streets, our songs now are named unknown. They wrote new books with ink made of shame, but the wind still whispers our ancestors' names. But the wind still whispers our ancestors' names. Oh, you can fake the past, you can hide the truth, but every stone remembers our youth. The sea still hums our lullabies, the olive trees won't forget our cries, the air still carries our stories untold. This land is ours, it won't be sold. It won't be sold. Look at their houses and land stolen from us. windows that once held our mother's dreams. They changed their names to sound like they're from here, but the earth knows strangers when they're near. 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 Ask the birds who sung here for years. Ask the waves that have dried our tears. The rocks still bear our children's scars. The moon still knows whose land we are. Ask the birds who sung here for yours. Oh, you can fake the past, you can hide the truth, but every stone remembers our youth. The sea still hums our lullabies. The olive trees won't forget our cries. The air still carries our stories untold. This land is ours, it won't be sold. It won't be sold. So dig up our roots, pave over our graves, build your walls, spread all your hate, but the land breathes us in its veins. But the land breathes us in its veins, and one day it will speak our name.